Good evening, everyone. To call the meeting to order at 7:30. Roll call, William Johnston. Here. Thomas Graffinino. Here. Lynn Colligan.
Here.
Lisa Kreckler.
Here.
Phil Diorio is here. Also, we have Tim Hill, ZBA attorney. First order of business is to review and approve the June 18th, 2025 minutes. Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have, on our hearing agenda, first thing up, we have two resolutions. The first is 3 Locust Avenue, Cummings. I've recused myself from the hearing, so I'm going to exit the room here.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. My agility.
Fine, you're here right after, sorry. Application by William Cummings for area variance and special permit at 3 Lockett Avenue, Shelter Island, New York. Suffolk Tax Map 700-6-3-14. The subject property is a corner lot with frontages located on Lockett Avenue and Meadow Place in AA zoning district for purposes of setback regulations. The zoning reverts to A within the nearshore overlay district. Applicant's proposes to construct second floor deck over a portion as per revised plan of the ex-district porch. Area variance and special permit will be required. The resolution of the board is to approve the request for area variance on 1.8 feet to allow 22.3 foot front yard setback and receding northerly to 28.3 foot front yard setback where 40 feet is required, and 17.9 foot front yard setback where 40 is required, as well as a special permit for the same as reflected in the site plan and drawings by Sherman Engineering and Consulting dated November 21, 2024, specifically revised April 20, 2025. The foregoing approval is granted upon the following conditions: the gate openings within the railing with locking gate, as specified on the revised plan, shall be no greater than 3 feet.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay. And we will do a roll call vote. William Johnston,
Yes.
Tom Scrafnino,
Yes.
Lynn Colligan.
Yes.
Lisa Kreckler, yes. The resolution passes. We can bring Phil back in.
Maybe let me get my pronouns out of here. They're gonna be like, "Who's this bitch?"
Oh, yeah.
Musical chairs tonight.
Application by Christopher Glazer for variance and special permit at 8 Hill Drive, Shelter Island, New York, Suffolk Tax Map 700-14-2-31.3. The subject property is located on the southerly side of Hill Drive and the A zone district with the Nature Overlay District. A request for area variance made to legalize and maintain the landing and stairs that, as now constructed, are located 31.8 feet from the property line as per survey site plan from John Minto dated February 11, 2025. The resolution of the board is to deny the request for an area variance to allow maintenance of an existing as-built 31.8 foot front yard setback where 40 is required.
All right. So can I have a motion? Christina, how are we going to word this? It's a motion to deny the application, right? Tim, is that,
Yes.
can I have a motion? Yes?
I'll make
Or a motion, to pass the resolution.
A motion to pass the resolution.
I'll
Thank
make
you.
that motion.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
I think we need to.
Okay, we have a roll call vote, sorry. Thomas Graffinino,
Aye.
Lynn Colligan,
Yes.
Lisa Kreckler,
Yes.
and Phil Diorio votes yes. Okay. We have three applications to discuss tonight. The first is a continuation of 80 North Ferry Road, Sylvester Manor. We have someone,
I have to excuse myself.
oh, sorry, Punch.
There you go.
Hello.
Hi, how are you? Good evening. Karen Ho from Timmy Latham on behalf of the applicant. The last time we were here back in May, the board had asked for some additional information regarding quantifying uses and conditions for the board to consider. We submitted a letter on June 11th, which we believe have addressed those questions that the board had, but we're happy to answer any questions or provide additional information should the board need it.
I don't think you actually answered the question. The question was kind of to define what it is that you're currently doing, at what levels. And you proposed some conditions that you could maybe see us imposing, but didn't really give us the information that we had asked for. As far as I can tell, you folks came here, and what you wanted to do is you wanted to, I'll say, get yourselves legal so that you can continue doing what you're doing and line up your grant money to rebuild the manor house. You didn't come here, as far as I know, looking for anything beyond that. And I think that this board is willing to work with you on those things, but I feel like in your letter, you refer to things that kind of, I would say, go beyond doing exactly what you're doing in the space that you're doing it. Now, if I would like to get the answers to those questions, I don't want to put the pressure on you to say, hey, you have to give it to us right now, but we have to get the actual answers to those questions, because that's what we want to thread the needle and find the thing that doesn't close the door to any future programs or expansion or whatever you might want to do there. But when the day comes that you have a plan for those things, I think that the people of the town of Shelter Island are due a full and fair hearing on that thing. So we are, I don't think, are up for these conditions that you talked about. What we want to know is the information. And one of the things I'll talk about is you talk about that there's 17,000 visitors. I would like to, if you could, take the people that go to the farm stand out, because if you have 500 regulars that go to the farm stand 20 times a summer, there's 10,000 visits right there. And so I'd like to get some sort of an accurate read on the things, the special event kind of things, the camp kind of thing, the nursery school kind of thing, that where we get a read, it's sort of the level, the intensity of those uses. And so that's my take. I don't, does everybody kind of agree with that? So I feel like, we need the information that we asked for. Now, if you don't want to provide it, we will parse the record and try to put together what we feel were the conditions and the numbers that you presented and try to make a resolution based on those things. But I would prefer to get that stuff from you as the applicants.
Okay, so in specifics, in terms of what our current uses are
That is correct.
and what the programming is, you want specific numbers, like historically, or what?
Yeah, I mean, what you're doing right now, what you've been doing for the last 5 years, and that's not what's in the letter.
Right, I think it was projecting what our current uses are and what we foresee happening in terms of some of the programming and events that we have. But is that something that we can put together? I just want to make sure that what we respond to you is exactly what you're looking for, so we're not back here.
Look, I think it's probably fairly easy for you folks to look back in the records and see what it is that you've been doing, right? Yes, sir.
Hey, I'm sorry. Stephen Searle, Executive Director. So I think my confusion would be that in this letter, it's sort of the appendix, if you will, like we did try to go through in specifics. Now, I just want to be clear so that we can respond to you as best we can. what beyond that do you need? Because we did provide numbers. We did say, okay, for educational programming, this is approximately how many people. For farming, obviously we went through that. For arts and cultural enrichment programs, we talked about that. This is just, that's for 2024, and we can project into 2025. Talking numbers, talking about how many people came, how many people attended, number of events. So again, I'm just looking for clarity from you all.
For me, it's not quite specific enough.
Okay.
It's just not quite specific enough. And I want you to understand, we're trying to come up with something that's going to be fair for Sylvester Manor. But we don't want to open the door to changes in programs, construction of buildings that is not going to require some sort of a trip back here to discuss and let the people of the town have a chance to have their input on that.
Okay, if I can propose something, is it possible if we take the time, put that together, if I can run it by council to confirm that this is exactly what you're looking for, so we don't submit something that the board says?
Sure, that's fine with me.
All right, I just think it might be efficient going forward, so we're not back here again and the board feeling that we haven't addressed the questions that they have.
So if we could get that information by July 9th, I think that way everybody would have a couple of weeks before the next hearing to discuss this. Tim, does that sound all right to you?
Yeah, I would just, say that you're proceeding on the provision of the statute, right? That's the other, right?
Right.
That you're akin to one of the enumerated, more specific uses that provide in statute. And in this letter, you specifically say that you're akin to an educational institution. I don't know if you mean to be that limited or not, because maybe some of the things you're talking about wouldn't necessarily be that. I don't know if you were trying to pull from several of the, enumerated uses.
Right.
I think because you're in the catch-all, the concern is that a grant is a grant of everything and anything. So looking for you to self-define the, what you are doing that would fit within
The catch-alls.
that, and not be any broader than that. I mean, this is an application for a special permit, so I mentioned this only by analogy, but you're familiar, of course, with in a variance that the board is, supposed to only grant the minimum amount of relief necessary. So it's the similar concern here is to tailor the grant, if there is a grant, to what fits within that catch-all category.
Okay.
And I would say this, we've only had one other application like this in my memory, and that was for Perlman. And when those folks showed up, they had a complete plan for the future, all the buildings they were going to build and their programming. And when the time comes when Sylvester Manor wants to do their other things, their new things, whatever they may be, they may be the greatest things that ever happened on Shelter Island. I don't know. But I do think that it'll be time for some sort of public hearing at that point. But for now, we want to just concentrate on what you're actually doing. And so that I think everybody here wants to see the Manor House get rebuilt, and I want to see you get the grant money to help rebuild the Manor House. So it's just a matter of, I guess, threading the needle.
Yeah, may I ask a question?
Yes.
So I'm just trying to, if you had examples of what you were looking for in terms, and you're talking really in terms of the operations, like day-to-day, whether it's educational programming, cultural programming, I just want to make sure that we're giving you what you're asking.
Right, I think the two, your council and our council can get together on that and get that stuff ironed out.
Okay, all right, so we're happy to put that together and get it back to the board by July 9th.
Yes, if that's okay with you?
I think that should be sufficient time.
Yes.
Yeah, if for some reason we're delayed, I will certainly contact the
Okay.
board and ask for additional time.
Okay. Is there anyone else that'd like to comment on this application now that we're, Mr. Gaynor, please?
Thank you. Mike Gaynor, 8 Cobbetts Lane. As I think everybody knows, I'm very much opposed to this application. Where to start? This past weekend, Father Peter drove by my house, and I promise you this is germane. He drove by my house on Saturday, and he waved. I called the Pope, waved the wave like this out of his car to say hi. I think he likes to see my horses or my flowers or whatever. In any event, I didn't realize he was in a funeral procession. All the lights were blinking and everything. And I assume he was going over to Our Lady of the Isle or whatever. And I had a moment of solemnity like we all do around those events when people pass away or whatever. And it got me to thinking about Sylvester Manor. I've been at odds with Sylvester Manor since I moved here, since I found out that there are hundreds of people buried over there, literally hundreds of people. North of 200 people are buried over there. And so I've been trying to think through this about what the topic here is. What is the actual use of Sylvester Manor? And there have been all these uses that Sylvester Manor has created in the last 10 years. They have concerts, they have weddings, they have corporate events, they have a nursery over there, and they're doing all these things without permits. What's the actual use of that place, without argument, is it's a cemetery. There's just, there's no argument about that. That's not up for interpretation. So I spent a lot of time over the last week, and I'll show this quickly to the members of that are come to look here, but I spent a lot of time over the last week, sorry, Gordon, going around. There are 6 cemeteries on the island, okay? Our Lady of the Isle, which a lot of us have been to. Father Peter has a headstone there. I don't know you could do that. He saved himself a spot already. I thought that was kind of cool. He wants to be buried next to his family. There's literally hundreds of World War II veterans. You can walk out the back door here. There's 3 cemeteries right here. There's Shelter Island Cemetery, there's the Emily French Cemetery, and there's the Presbyterian Cemetery. And that's just right there. And then, of course, there's the Quaker Cemetery, which is on their property over there. That's where the Sylvesters wanted to make certain that their family was being respected. And of course, there's St. Mary's Cemetery over there, the Episcopal Cemetery over there. And I've been walking through all of these places, and I specifically, I'm an Army veteran. And so I'm looking at all these soldiers from World War II that are buried inside here. It's pretty moving. This guy, in particular, John W. Sandwell, what's his name? Ambrose Clancy from the Distorter did an article on him. I don't care much for Ambrose, but he did an excellent article on this guy. This guy was born just down the street here on 114 in Black Cat Books, and he was born in 1924 and he lived to 1945, and he died. He was in the 10th Infantry Division. I was in the 4th Infantry. If I re-upped, they were going to put me inside of this. These guys were badass. That's one of the reasons I didn't re-up for the Army. Anyhow, this guy, he went over, and 2 months shy of the war being over in 1945, in February 1945, he died over there. He took a heat round to distract fire from his family. And you can see there's stories about all of these various World War II veterans that are being celebrated inside of all these war memorials that are over there, inside of all these various cemeteries. These 2 are particularly interesting. These guys are after my own heart. These are 2 cavalry veterans over at the Presbyterian Church. They were born, all these folks were born on the island, every single one. This guy was born on the island, spent every day of his life on the island until he went over to the European theater and died. These 2 guys were in the cavalry, and this guy was born in 1935, this guy was born in 1945, so they would have still had slaves down the block down here. Their neighbors would have had slaves while these guys were serving in the military, and all these people are very much respected, right? That's like something that we do with our dead. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. Why is Sylvester Manor this educational farm? These folks came up with this term that they're an educational farm, when in fact, I think the actual use is a cemetery. These people have been buried here Hundreds of people. What's the difference between the Emily French Cemetery and Our Lady of the Isle Cemetery, the Quaker Cemetery, the Shelter Island Cemetery? It's filled. There's you can go walk out that door, like not 50 meters away. Dickerson's and Sherman's, and there's just the cemetery is filled with them. And I'm thinking about this, and these folks are out there, they're having these events over there at these places, what I would define is a cemetery, and they're having these events. This is gonna happen this weekend, you all know this. This Saturday, they're gonna have a disco dance over there, 100 meters from a cemetery. Literally, all these people are gonna be dancing the night away. Does that seem respectful to you? Would Father Peter, his entire family plot is over there at Our Lady of the Isle, his entire family, he's saved a place for himself next to his mom. Would he want to have that going on next to his graveside? Look at this stuff. This is gonna go happen this Saturday. They're putting up the dance floor right now. These people, this is an actual illustration of a boat called the Serobe. This is a slaving boat. It was a Dutch-built slaving boat that Nathaniel Sylvester contracted to take down to the Ivory Coast and go pick up hundreds of slaves. These people wound up over there. Some subset of them went over there. These people were just like Father Peter and everybody else. They had parents, they had children, they had sons, they had daughters. Are they no less interesting? So what is it about this place that does not make its principal use that of a cemetery? I would really like to understand that. There's hundreds of people buried over there, and they're buried inside of a giant gravesite. A cemetery is a fairly black and white thing. There's not too many things going on there. It's a parcel of land where people are laid to rest so they can rest peacefully for the rest of their life. What is the difference between Sylvester Manor Educational Farm and this existing use that's been going on for hundreds of years? It's a human dumping ground. I'll give you, it's a shitty cemetery. They don't take care of it. There's garbage strewn all over the place. It's not pretty like the other cemeteries with the flags and everything and everybody taking care of it. But why is this not a cemetery? Why is not that their principal cemetery? And I think that's the prism through which whatever uses they want to propose that they can do on that property needs to be looked at through that prism. What would we allow to happen over at Shelter Island Cemetery? What would we allow to happen over at the Emily French Cemetery? Would we allow them to do what Stephen is suggesting? He wants to have weddings. Remember, the first meeting he came here in April and he said, oh gosh, that's totally out of vogue. We're not going to have weddings anymore. That's so passé. We're a plantation. A month later, he came back being like, you know what? Foggy memory. We have had a bunch of weddings. And you know what? Even further, we're going to have a lot more of them. Right? We're going to have weddings after weddings after weddings. I'm not going to bore you with all this stuff because I'm going to get distracted here, but he's got 7 wedding venues planned over there. Are those appropriate uses for a place that is actually a cemetery? Is it? Concerts, discos, all of this different stuff? Those people were human beings that are living over there, and they've set up dance tents with a dance floor, and they're gonna have live music this Saturday. Does anybody have any sort of moral compass around this place? I think it's time for this community to recognize what Sylvester Manor Educational Farm is. No one is more supportive than seeing that historical site preserved. No one is more historical, but there has to be some boundaries. And they have no boundaries right now. They can do whatever they want. We've established this. They can have all the parties they want. Nobody's going to stop them from doing it. You can put whatever constraints in place that you want. It doesn't really matter because you have no enforcement action whatsoever. We've established this. They're going to do all these things. And so whatever you tell them to do, they're just going to say, yeah, sure, we'll do it. But at the end of the day, the place is a cemetery. And I think we need to determine from there what we are going to allow them to do. So I have a question. It's very simple. It shouldn't even be a question. It's just a comment, because this should not require any pontification whatsoever. Can I get the board to acknowledge right now that that's a cemetery? And if you can't acknowledge why that's a cemetery, I would like you to explain to me why. Tim, this is what we pay you for. How can all of these things be cemeteries and this not be a cemetery?
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Gainer?
Yes, sir.
How many acres of the property is the cemetery?
I have no idea. Nobody knows. They brought University of Massachusetts out there to conduct findings. These people were not considered human beings, Phil. No one knows exactly what's buried over there and where it's buried.
So then my question, so do you feel that the 200 plus acres should be sterilized because of this?
Absolutely. I think they have inside of 80 North Ferry Road should be established as a cemetery. Do you think those cemeteries over there should be established as cemeteries and we should allow those other uses? Am I opposed to them improving the other parts of, like, fixing up the building, fixing up the various historical sites? That's fine. This shit, I am not fine with. That's not acceptable at a place where people are buried. It's just not. Ben Diet doing that, that's not acceptable.
Mr. Gaynor,
Yes, ma'am.
if you could refrain from cursing at us and speaking to us in a demeaning manner as if we don't live here and that we're uneducated. You are at this point belaboring all the points that you've made repeatedly. Do you have any new point or new information that you want to present?
Sure, I do. Absolutely. I've asked a simple question. I would like an answer. Is that a cemetery or is it not, Tim? It's a very straightforward answer.
I think what you said was that that was a comment, and I think that that's how it'll be received. Your comments will be considered by the board. Whether that's within the scope of this application or not is another question.
See, this isn't a comment. I'm asking you a question. It's very simple. A house is a house, a cat is a cat, a dog is a dog. This is a building. It's black and white. Is it a cemetery or not? A place where hundreds of people are buried, is it a cemetery? That's reasonable to ask the board.
That's for us to discuss in our work session.
Okay, I'll see if I can make it less complicated. This guy right here, George Strum, he's 98 years old. I heard you talking about Okinawa and Iwo Jima. This guy's still alive. In his lifetime, he's walking around the island. I opened up the door to the post office to him within the last year. And it would have been the equivalent of you, Lisa, seeing Taylor Swift at the IGA or something. Like my jaw dropped. I was like, no way, that guy's still alive. In his lifetime, while he was serving in the European and Asian theaters, 6 million Jews were slaughtered. Okay? Slaughtered. The reason they were slaughtered is because the Germans at the Wannsee Conference in 1942 established that they were subhuman. They codified it, like your laws there. Just inside, let me finish, ma'am. They codified it. They established that they were subhuman, that they deserved to be annihilated, and they were killed. It wasn't that long ago that people considered them subhuman. And so I'm trying to figure out how these people right here could not be considered, this could not be considered human, this could not be considered a cemetery. And the only thing I can come up with is that someone thinks they're subhuman. Like, because otherwise it doesn't make sense to me. This is black and white. Like, we would never be allowed, none of the families on this island would allow any of these other cemeteries to have any of these other functions go on, but yet you're gonna allow these guys this Saturday to have a disco over there. That's unacceptable, so I'd really like an answer. Is it a cemetery or is it not? It's not up for debate. It just is, there's hundreds of people buried over there. Can I please have an answer?
You've made the comment.
It's not a comment. Well,
You said
okay,
it's
I'll
not up
expand
for
on it
debate.
even further. News 12 is going to be doing a segment on this, and here's an opportunity to correct the record and to preserve what's left of your career. Can you please tell me, is that a cemetery or is it not? You think that's funny?
I think your comment is inappropriate as it's directed to me. I think you've had an opportunity to make your comments to the board, and you've done that. That's the purpose of this meeting, right? You are opposed to this application, and
I'm opposed to the fact that there are 200 dead people buried over there and they're going to have a disco on
right,
Saturday.
and whether this application is the place to litigate that issue is perhaps something you need to consider.
There's nothing to litigate.
Mr. Gaynor, you're belaboring the point, and so we're ready to move on, and we thank you for your presentation.
Last point. inside of their application, and I brought this up the last time, it's inside, it's a Appendix A or whatever it is. They have 3 parcels of property that are all contiguous with their lot. And for some reason, they've omitted them inside of the application. So the argument is that Sylvester Manor Educational Farm has this use. Sylvester Manor owns all 3 of these lots right here. Why are they omitting these parcels from this lot? That makes no sense whatsoever. Why would you do that? They're the use. This is very unusual. So they're a corporation and we're defining them as a use. Okay, if they're the corporation, they own all of these properties and they're all contiguous, why are they omitting these uses? What do they have planned here? I know what they have planned for right here. They're planning on selling off this land to the town, 100%. That they're gonna hold us hostage on that. They're gonna say if we don't buy it, if we don't pay for their development rights there, they're gonna build a bunch of houses. That one's clear to me. What they have planned for these other uses over here and here, I have no idea, but I just don't understand why it would be omitted from the application. It literally makes no sense. So if we're gonna establish, like you were saying, give us a full view of what's going on inside what you're doing, then let's take all of these properties, they all share a lot line, and let's all put them under the umbrella of one special permit, okay? Thanks so much, folks.
Thank you. Anyone else like to weigh in here? Please step up, sir.
All right. Anyway, Bill Mastro, Hay Beach Property Owners Association. We did submit another letter to the board. We hope that you give it due consideration. If you give me 1 second, because I'm a little confused and has nothing to do with our letter. The owners of the property have not established that it's a cemetery. It may have a cemetery component to it, but the entire property isn't. One of the things to perhaps look at is what is permissible on a cemetery. Now, I happen to know, I grew up in Brooklyn, that many cemeteries have lots of events. Right now, if you go on Greenwood Cemetery, one of the most popular, important cemeteries in this country, you will see that they're having concerts, that they're having the Battle of Brooklyn reenactments. I'm, as some of you know, a cyclist. One year, we did the tour of Brooklyn through Greenwood Cemetery. There are Halloween things that occur in graveyards and cemeteries. And graveyards are usually connected to churches. So I'm sorry for that little diversion, but I think that maybe informs some things here. You want to be respectful to the people that are buried, but it doesn't mean that you can't do anything else. So that's important. Now, as regards Sylvester Manor's application, we clearly would like to see the Manor House rebuilt. One of the things we didn't say in our letter is there a possibility that you can bifurcate this application and, or you guys do the bifurcation and put it in so that the pieces that are not controversial can go through quickly.
Let me ask you, Mr. Master, what's controversial to you?
Controversial to me and to the association are the things that are right now vague and undefined for the future.
Okay, but in terms of current activities, is there anything that you find controversial?
No,
And so if we were to approve exactly the current activities, would there be any need to bifurcate at that point?
I would, or without seeing the actual language, I would tend to think yes. We would like to know in what they're going to submit, when you ask for the current uses, what are the current housing situations, how are they set up, how many people, all of the things that I guess was really discussed at the last meeting, and I thought was a great meeting. So,
I felt like we didn't get actual clear answers to some of
right,
those.
I mean, as we said in our letter, clarity is essential, and I think that unfortunately, the response has just delayed things, and we would like to see this move forward. I mean, that's no ifs, ands, or buts on that part. And the last part is I said the last time, and I'll be a little redundant, when there is an approval, that the approval please be narrow and not precedent setting, because I think that's been a problem in too many other things around the town, not specific to zoning, to a lot of other things. Thank you for all you've done on this. I think you guys got a good hand.
Thank you. Mr. Gaynor, I just want to make one comment to you quickly, sir. I know everybody's probably going to yell at me for, oh, you bringing Mr. Gaynor back up here now? But I know that you're very diligent in your approach to things. And so I wanted to mention there's one other cemetery on Shelter Island, that's in Mashamek.
Yep, I know.
And they also have events down there.
I mean, Phil, that's not a reasonable comparison. That's a 2,500 acre property. That's a family cemetery for the family that owned that property, and the entire thing was picked up by the Nature Conservancy. The Nature Conservancy would be an appropriate steward for this property, by the way. I've tried to get through to those folks and say they should be running this place. So you're absolutely right. But I think there might be, that's at the head of the trail on the yellow path where you get onto, I've walked it a million times, trust me. where you hit the blue path right there. There's probably 11 headstones there or something?
I think it's a little more than that, but I just want to,
Okay,
respect your diligence. I just want to point that out.
no, that's very nice of you to bring that up, but I just don't think that's in any way a reasonable situation. There are hundreds of people buried right behind you, families all throughout Shelter Island. I could keep on going on with the bills.
Right, but by the same token, there's cemeteries right here, and there's dancing at the Legion Hall, right? Is that too close, too far, or because there's a different owner, it's okay?
Yeah, I think that's actually reasonable, especially the Legion Hall specifically, as a group of folks who respect the dead. This place is filled with military veterans. I could walk you through one story after another. Billy Dickerson, who just passed away in 2020. He went to World War II 2 months before that thing was over, and he came home with a Purple Heart. There's one story after another.
I understand that, Mr. Gaynor. I understand that, but I just there are other. I guess my point is there are other places on the island where there are cemeteries, and there are things going on nearby that perhaps I think, if you were to say, I don't want dancing within 1,000 feet of a cemetery, might be in violation of your desires, right?
Can we get to the part of their application where they reference a cemetery? That's all I want to get established here. Can we make them put it inside of their application that there's a cemetery there? Is that big of an ask? There's several hundred people buried over there. Can it simply say inside of their application that the property contains a cemetery? At least we will have acknowledged that those 200 plus human beings over there were in fact human beings and not subhuman, right? Otherwise, I don't know how you get there. So why can't we simply ask them, can't you tell them, can you please go back and amend your application and say that it wouldn't take 2 sentences. We have a cemetery, right? SCEMETERY, right? We have a cemetery on our property, and there's 200 plus African slaves buried there in an unmarked, unkempt gravesite. I don't think that's a lot to ask. And just get it documented. It'll be the first time in 300 plus years on the island. Right? You guys are all about documenting things. Here, look at all the paperwork. Can't we simply ask them to go include a couple of sentences inside of there to say, yes, the principal use here is that of a cemetery. I'll even put the word principal. Just put a use inside of this property. I'm not sure, Phil, why you find this so funny, because
I don't think it's funny.
These are zoning points. It is a use. A cemetery is a defined use inside of the zoning code, right? And it's permissible inside of a AA zone. They don't even need a special permit if they agree to the fact that they're a cemetery, right?
Okay.
And so can they simply amend their application? Can the zoning board ask them to amend their application to annotate, to recognize that those several hundred people are buried in a cemetery and not just a pit, which is what it is right now. It's just a dirt pit that's unacknowledged.
It's called the burial ground of the colored people. That's the technical name of it, if I'm not mistaken, because I'm sorry?
Do you want me to address it?
Yes, and we will discuss all of this at the work session, but your point is clear and it's very clear.
Thank you very much. A
Appreciate that.
defined term is a cemetery, just so we're clear. It's not called burial ground.
No, that's the sacred name of the cemetery.
Alice Piss put that name on it on a rock when she felt like dealing with it after her husband passed away.
Historians agree that that's the accepted title of that sacred burial ground for the enslaved people, as well as their other relatives and ancestors. So I would defer to Sylvester Manor to answer that question.
I wouldn't defer to Sylvester Manor to answer anything.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else wish to chime in here? Jan, please step up.
Hi, my name is Jan Sudo. I'm a resident of Rum Island neighborhood. I'm one of the board members of the Rum Island Association. I'm here speaking on behalf of Rum Island Association in place of our president, Brad Coppens, who is out of town. So I'm just gonna make it very brief. Rum Island Association at the previous meeting took the position that we support legalizing existing uses and structure at Sylvester Manor, let them proceed with their renovation as soon as possible. However, we continue to be concerned about this open-ended nature, allowing undefined structures, blanket application for undefined structures and uses, which I think is unprecedented, and actually, Chairman Diori already addressed that people usually come with specific plans because they want an exemption for something or some relief or setback or this or that and so forth. People don't come to ZBA to ask for blanket permission to build whatever and do whatever on the property. We think that if ZBA was to grant such open-ended permission, that would create very dangerous precedent for the rest of the island. There would be then either spot zone or a definition what's allowed in AA zone, which is single family residential. So we also, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time, but we also were troubled by the latest submission from the legal counsel, which basically didn't address the questions which ZBA asked. But you already talked about it, so you stole my thunder. So we're asking ZBA now to keep the public hearing open, allow the legal counsel to provide the information which was requested to them at the previous meeting. And so I'm glad that that will be submitted by July 9th. So this will give us, the public, enough time to analyze what was submitted for the next ZBA meeting, public hearing council meeting.
Anything else?
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to weigh in?
Kimberly Ray on Zoom.
Okay, somebody in Zoom land want to speak? Kimberly Ray?
Yes, sir. Hang on just a second, please. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. I just would, in the way, I just want to briefly say, with respect to what Michael Gaynor has said, New York State recently enacted a new law that would regulate the remains at unmarked burial site, primarily of Native Americans, but also slaves. And I don't know that it prohibits the sorts of things that they want to do. Sylvester Manor wants to, the activities they want to conduct, but there is law on this, number one. I'd also like to say that I've read this application probably 7 times, and I still don't know what they want to do. It's so inspecific. It just doesn't give you notice, nor us notice what it is they want to do. I mean, it looks like they want to, well, wait, let me back up a minute. I think that what's really fairly before this board is the renovation of the Manor House, which I can't imagine that anybody wouldn't want that. I mean, that's a laudable goal, and it needs to be looked at, in my opinion, in that light. With one exception, which I'll get to in a minute. The rest of it, though, having all these events, this unspecified number of events, which is going to end up causing thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people to be on the island. And I don't know how, I'm just not sure how our municipal services are going to handle that. Not to mention what some people would consider to be nuisance factors. So without more detail, I just don't know how that can be passed upon. I also think that this wish that they have expressed to build what is essentially workforce housing, I think, if you read between the lines, and not have any more than, I think it's 10 people living in each one of these at each time. That's obviously, that's not a permitted use in the zone. And I think that should be treated as a variance, but I think you have to have the specifics of that proposed project. And Phil, I think that's what you've been alluding to when you say that if they want to get down to something more specific, they need to come back and have that reviewed by the zoning board. And I do think that's what should happen. But I also like to point out something that I also haven't understood, because sprinkled throughout their application are protestations that Sylvester Manor is not a school, it's not educational, it doesn't hold educational sessions, when in fact it was incorporated as a 501c3 specifically for that purpose. One of the purposes, there are 3 purposes to be able to get 501c3 status, and that is charitable works, religious works, and educational works. Now, the educational works is a broad category, but I just think this pretending that they're not a school or an educational facility is, I don't know what the purpose of it is, except that in their bylaws, which were enacted or adopted rather in September of 2009, the corporation is prohibited from operating or maintaining a library, museum, archive, or historical society to own or hold collections. Now, those are their bylaws. And so I don't know how they can come to the zoning board and ask for permission to include plans for constructing a museum in the manor house, because they're not allowed to do that by their own bylaws. That is essentially, for them to ask you to do that is what we would call in law an ultra vires act. They want to do something that is illegal under their own bylaws. And they're asking you to permit that. And I think that's a very slippery slope. They're not allowed to hold schools or have schools there. And they're not allowed to have archives. Now, another thing that troubles me about this application is that one of the stated purposes is to be able to accommodate visiting scholars so that they can do research. So I'm just wondering, how are they going to do research if they can't have a library or an archives there? I'm not just being difficult here. I mean, this is what they're asking. This is a huge ask that I think is completely unsupported factually and legally. And I think their own bylaws prohibit them from doing this. And then to ask you to permit these ultra vires acts, it just makes it much worse. So I hope that what you will look at here are plans to rehabilitate and restore the manor house. That very definitely needs to be done. But all of these other constructions of buildings that are no greater than 1,500 square feet, without any limit to it, without any plans, without an application, each of those should be separately permitted. So those are the things I had in mind, and I just wanted to point them out. And I do hope, it sounds like you're going to leave the record open, but I think we all need far more detail than we've been given. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to weigh in? No, all right, so we're going to adjourn this until July 23rd. And we'd like to get the written correspondence from Sylvester Manor by July 9th, 2 weeks prior to the hearing. And Timmy, you'll converse with Ms. Hoag?
Yes.
Thank you. All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
I just want to apologize to the board. I don't mean to offend anybody. I'm just impassioned about this. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have 20 Manhasset Road, Kraus. Oh, okay, we're going to give it a minute here.
Grab some water. Yes, some water.
Rookie mistake, not bringing water on a day like today when
Oh, that's right.
Tell me about it. Butch, I'd like to tell you that we're not going to be kicking you out of the room for any more of those, but I think there's going to be one more at least. All right, are we ready to go here? Oh, sorry, Lynn, I'm going to make you run with your glass of water.
Spill.
All right, next up, we have Kraus, 20 Manhasset Road, Kraus. Christina, will you read the notice?
Hearing an application of Eric Kraus, owner of 20 Manhasset Road, South Carolina, New York, which is located in Zone C, is more specifically described on the Suffolk Architect map at 700-A-2-36. The applicant wishes to construct attached accessory dwelling above the garage and is seeking an area variance from the town code section 133-17A 1D. There was no correspondence received.
Okay, Matt, you're going to present, please state your name for the record.
Good evening, Max Sherman, Sherman Engineering and Consulting. I'm here on behalf of Eric Kraus, who's on Zoom. This application is a very simple, straightforward application. Mr. Kraus has got a piece of property on the island over on Manhasset Road. It's slightly under 3/4 of an acre. He wants ZBA approval to put an accessory dwelling unit on it. It requires about a 6% variance in order to meet zoning code for that accessory dwelling unit. Right now, there is a 2-bedroom dwelling on the property right now, and he'll be looking to construct a 2-story, 2-bedroom accessory dwelling unit with a garage on the first floor and the dwelling unit on the second floor. In order to do this, he would also have to get an approval from the health department to upgrade the current septic system to an IA septic system. We can't make that application or complete that application until we get approval from the zoning board first. We have to make sure that accessory unit meets zoning code or has the benefit of a variance.
And Matt, I just want to make sure, the only thing that you need from us is an area variance for the undersized lot.
That's exactly right. We meet rear yard setback, side yard setback, coverages, minimum building area for the square foot living area for the accessory unit. We're well under the maximum square foot living area limits for the property. So the only thing we need from the board is that variance for that 6% of lot size.
And Matt, it looks like on the proposal, you're expanding that gravel driveway.
Yeah, it's basically just have a access way that goes out, learn from the last one, that we bring parking out over to the accessory dwelling unit, so you've got parking for it as well.
Read my mind.
For the main house. You got it, yep.
That doesn't show.
No, it's on the thing.
Oh.
Yeah, there's that site plan on that upper corner of my plan. You'll see there is a 8-foot diameter by 8-foot deep dry well right in front of the south side of the accessory dwelling unit. That's right in the middle of that new parking area.
And the stairs are on the inside, the interior for the upstairs
Yeah,
access?
and you can see that on that same drawing.
Yep.
You've got the staircase that, if you're looking at the drawing on the left-hand side.
And in terms of the use, they're planning on, what are they doing, overflow, or are they planning on renting it?
Eric, I will toss that to you, Eric. Like I said, he's on Zoom to see if you've got a decision as to how you're going to be using that building.
You let him, oh, there you go. Eric, please speak. State your name. Thanks. Eric Kraus.
Yeah, so it's through that ADU program. So I plan on having it rented year round. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else have any other questions?
No.
No? No?
Drove by, looks like a good site.
Yeah, I went by there, seems, that's well. Tim, is there anything that you feel like we need to address here?
No?
Okay, I think maybe we could have a motion to close the hearing.
Yes, the public.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Is there anyone else out here who would like to weigh in on this application? Please, I apologize, Gina.
And I've addressed you before, and our family is so in support of community housing, and I think this is great for Eric and great for our community, so I hope that you will support that as a town, as we are, so.
Thank you. Gina.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Anyone in Zoom land want to weigh in? I don't see anybody. All right, so can I get a motion to close the hearing? We would close it, leave it open to written correspondence until July 9th, and discuss it at our work session on the 16th. May I have a motion to close?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. William Johnson,
Yes.
Thomas Grappino,
Yes.
Lynn Colligan.
Yes.
Lisa Kreckler.
Yes.
And Phil DiOrio votes yes, the motion passes. Right. Next up, we have a final application of the night, 9 Clinton Avenue, O'Connell. Is there someone here? Oh, first, Christina, you want to read the notice?
Hearing on the application of Richard O'Connell, owner of 9 Clinton Avenue, Shelter Island, New York, which is located in Zone AA, reverts to A, nature overlay. It is more specifically described on the Suffolk County tax map as 700-5-2-36. The applicant is seeking multiple area variances from the Town Code Section 133-6B5, front, rear, and side yard. Special permits are required for the expansion of the boat in already non-conforming area. Additionally, an area variance is needed from Town Code Section 133-6, 6A and B to exceed allowable lot coverage. There was a correspondence from a property owner from the corporation, inter alia, stating that the Heights conditionally supports the project, subject to receiving a traffic and storage plan that is acceptable to the Heights and zoning board, and outlines the conditions they wish to propose in a resolution. There was a letter of support, full support received from Annie Sullivan.
Great. Who's here to present?
Matthew Sherman, Sherman Engineering and Consulting. I'm here on behalf of the property owners, and Mr. O'Connell is here, as well as McDonald, who's the project architect. I've got a quick, hopefully, quick presentation to just kind of go through, and it's really just the same thing, most of it of what you received in the application package. So the majority of this is not new information, just putting it out there so anybody who's in the public who hasn't seen this yet can see some of the information in front of them. And if you have any questions on this stuff, I can go into it in greater detail. As noted in the letter of denial and in the notice, small piece of property in the Shelter Island Heights, on Clinton Avenue, just a couple of properties up from the tennis courts at the end of Clinton Bay. Get down, make that turn over toward the ferry. The here. Blow that up? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm having a slight technical issue. There we go. Okay, so this is the survey, and I'll go over these things. Some of the earlier slides, I've got larger versions of them as we go further down. But this is the site as it currently exists. It's a little bit messy just because it's a survey, so there's a lot of additional information on it, topography and things like that. But the gist of it is Clinton Avenue to the northeast, relatively small piece of property, typical small heights property. The building significantly predates current zoning, so it's, and I'll show you the zoning setbacks here in just a second. So it's pre-existing non-conforming. There used to be a 10-foot wide alley in the back, which I believe is no longer in existence. It's now, that property's been absorbed by adjacent properties. Property to the north, garage is right off of the property line. Property to the south, the house is right off the property line.
That property to the north, is it just the garage?
No, it's a garage, and I think it then extends over to the main house, right?
So main house
Yeah.
and that's another garage on the property.
Yeah, so it's garage, large lawn, main house with another garage, yeah. So this is in essence what we're looking to do. And again, this, I'll drill this into some close-up pictures here in just a second. Simplified version of the site survey showing the building with setbacks. And then the basement, the first floor and the second floor. This is the drawing you've got in front of you. I color coded it so that you can hopefully easily see the difference between existing and proposed. The existing floor plans are in blue, with the proposed floor plans being in red, green, excuse me. And you'll see on most of them, the lines completely overlap because there's not much happening to most of these.
What number is that, Matt? You know?
That's the first, it's C1. That.
There's also-
Tommy's got it.
Also like a single page.
Yeah, there you go.
The new one. No.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Hey, you got it. Yeah.
I got it.
Okay. So off of Clinton Avenue, it's AA zone, as all heights, it's AA zone. Most of the heights reverts back to single A zone. This is a single A setbacks for this property. So you've got 40 feet off of the front yard. That's this line here that runs, 3/4 of the way back into the property. We've also got 25 feet off of the rear yard. So those 40-foot and 25-foot lines, they overlap. So it's an inverted building envelope here. We've got 25 feet from both side yards. So you've got this one here just beyond one of the new proposed window wells. And then this other one here, which basically goes right down the middle of the existing house as you're looking at it from, we'll say, east to west, just to simplify. On this drawing, you can also see that we're asking to do a number of different things that are requiring variances. Starting on Clinton Avenue, there's a second floor deck that's over top of the covered porch. We want to push it out a little bit. So that's going over closer to Clinton Avenue. There's a couple of spots within the existing first floor covered porch that are going to be converted to living space. Those don't require ZBA variances. So we've got them noted here because it's part of the project, but that's not really part of what the board is here to opine on. On the backside, there's a porch. There's going to be about a 1 foot 3 inch push out of that porch, which is then turns into a slightly larger screen porch on that backside. And then we've got a handful of, we've got 4 window wells for basement egress, because we're going to be asking for approval to increase the basement so that we can have some living space in there, which you'll see in a second. And then the last thing is the covered patio, the new patio. Excuse me, it's just an open patio, but it's 5 feet off of the side yard line and it's 5 feet off of the rear yard line. So that's going to need variances from both of those. So for the basement, and I'll go into a more detailed drawing on this here as well in just a second. Most of the basement is just like an unfinished storage area that's about 7 feet high, give or take. And then there's a portion of the basement that's crawl space. I should say, I got that flipped. Most of the basement is crawl space, and then there's a portion of it which is about 7 feet with a mechanical room, mechanical area, things of that effect. And I'll show you a picture of that here in a second. So what we're proposing to do is, because one of the driving factors of this project is maintenance that needs to be done, a majority of it on the basement. The basement's got areas where it's structurally failing, so we have to rebuild. And we said, hey, if we're rebuilding the basement, let's drop it down a couple of feet so we can have some living space in the basement. That creates a need for those window wells. And what it also does is allows us to increase the bedroom count in the building so that we can have a little bit more usability. And we'll show you that here in just a second.
What's the current bedroom count right now?
Right now, there's 4 bedrooms. Yeah.
And the proposed?
Will be 5. And I'll show you how it lays out here in just a second. So for the first floor, the overall dimensions stay almost identical with the exception of those 2 areas that are covered porch. You see them on the upper left-hand side of this drawing. In green, they go from porch to living space. And then you've got that 1 foot 3 inch where the extended porch on the back of the house gets pushed out. And then for the second floor, the footprint, bird's eye view, if you sliced it, the living space of that second floor remains the same. It gets reconfigured. One of the bedrooms turns into a bathroom. So it goes from 4 bedrooms on that second floor to 3 bedrooms on the second floor. And then the other 2 bedrooms, bringing us to a total of 5, will go into that new basement. The biggest thing that's happening on the second floor that really EPA would be concerned about is that 3 foot 4 inch expansion of that second floor porch over top of the, that deck over top of the first floor porch.
There's no expansion of the footprint there.
No, not at all. It's all within the existing footprint. Yeah. All right, so I won't belabor these too much. It's the interior drawings for this is the existing foundation where you've got the majority of it as a crawl space, and then you've got this square area that's a cellar, and in there you've got a concrete slab, but you've got the mechanical equipment. In the rest of the crawl space, most of the building, the structure is being supported by locust posts. So that's another part of the project is to remove those locust posts as support, as well as areas, replace the existing foundation that's failing with new foundation. It's important to note that we're designing, or Ian's designed the foundation to be done with concrete block as opposed to being poured, so that it's easier as far as bringing material on site. We're not going to need as many pump trucks or ready mix trucks, things along those lines. It is a little bit more labor intensive. It's not as convenient, but it's easier as far as staging and addressing one of the heights concerns of what are we doing with parking? What are we doing with material deliveries? Are we going to have to shut down roads when we got ready mix trucks coming in to pump the walls of the foundation? For that part of the project, the block foundation will help mitigate those concerns. This is the proposed basement. So this gets to those other 2 bedrooms. You've got a, on the upper left-hand corner bedroom, a rec room in the middle. There's a bathroom on the lower left-hand corner, and then another bedroom on the lower right-hand corner, and then the mechanical area that was in that small squared area in the previous floor plan. For the first floor, this remains fairly similar before and after. Living room, an entry hall. There's a small office on the north side of the this drawing, and then a dining room on the south side. You got that rear porch that's going to get increased, and you've got a kitchen with a laundry and a powder room. So there's not much of a change here. The biggest change is the kitchen gets reconfigured, the laundry room gets turned into a mud room, powder room stays the same. The office, the entry, the living room, the dining room, those all stay the same. That rear porch gets extended out a little bit, and by that 1.5 feet, and then that turns into enclosed space. Second floor, you've got your 4 bedrooms and these 2 small bathrooms. And that turns into 3 bedrooms and 2 larger bathrooms. So one is part of a bedroom for the master, a bathroom for the master, and then the other in that upper northeast corner turns into a shared bathroom for the other 2 bedrooms. The overall building height doesn't change, so it stays as currently existing, about 30 feet on the high side, which is into the property, and about 34 feet on the low side, which is on the road side of the property. The basement height is 8-foot ceiling height. Got just over a 9-foot ceiling height for the first floor and just under an 8-foot height for the second floor. There is a storage attic up in the, what's the 3rd floor. Something that we had submitted a second set of drawings on a couple of these because the Heights had noticed that we had messed up on our first set of drawings. We didn't have the correct second floor porch, that one that's coming out toward the road. So we submitted a revised set with that red call out showing what we changed. The railing was updated. And going both the design and the style, showing it coming out. So the railing actually comes out, so it's right over top of that front porch railing below it.
Matt, going back to the basement.
Yes.
What's the height of it now?
We're dropping it down about 3 feet, so it's somewhere shy of, somewhere between 6 and 7 feet.
And the window wells, so those egress windows that are going in there, or just?
Yeah, those are the ones that are going in there now. The new ones will be egress windows. So they've got to come about 3 feet out from the building, then plus the thickness of the, the wall structure itself. So they'll come out about 4 feet, give or take. So this is just to show the deck that's coming out over that first floor covered porch. These are 2 existing vent wells, areas that those are going to be turning into egress window wells. Looking from the other side, so you can see there's like a lattice wall or screening on the outside of that walkway. Looking at from the side yard, it would be like if you're standing inside of the property from Clinton, looking at the house. So you've got a couple of new egress wells on that right-hand side, and then the area where the patio would be straight in front of you.
What material's the patio?
It's going to be brick. Yeah. Or pavers.
Laid in sand?
Yeah. This is just something that we wanted to show so you could see some of the reasoning behind this project to begin with. We've got cracks, this is in the basement. We've got cracks in the foundation wall that have got differential settling. And a lot of, brick is going to crack, masonry is going to crack, concrete's going to crack. We don't necessarily worry about it until those cracks start getting large or they start moving off of one another. And that's what's happening here. So when you have that differential settling, it shows that there's a structural failure and you want to take care of it before it becomes something more significant. So that's what's happening in the basement. So we've got it pushing out over here by this vent window. We've also got it pushing out over here by the furnace and the electrical panel. Coming up into the building itself, the walls are sagging, doors are no longer plumb. It's typical 1800s house. It's what's going to happen, and this is the kind of mitigation that we're looking to do to fix it. So same thing, bedroom walls changing, things being out of plumb, things sag. This is up in that attic, the one on the right, where it's the old coal chimney. And we've got cracks, differential settling, holes, spalling, things of that effect. And then there's another chimney that's coming up from the basement in the mechanical area. And you can see where the brick is coming apart, and it's basically just slowly deteriorating. And some of the locust posts that are supporting the existing structure. Areas of the existing structure that have got rot and damage, things that need to be taken care of.
And that's areas where we've got, the grade is right up against the siding, where we really want that grade to come down a little bit, or the siding to come up a little bit. So you've got minimum code required separation, and you don't have to worry about water damage, things of that effect. So those will be addressed as part of the project. That's what I've got for the board. If you've got any questions for me, I'd be more than happy to answer. If you've got any questions for the homeowner or for the designer.
You know,
I have one question. Just going back to the first floor, this, I know it's very minor, this porch and living space extension on the back here, is that just because you need it structurally to extend that?
Does it help my argument? We don't need it structurally. It's a convenience. We're doing the project. It's, putting it all together. It makes it work better as far as the use of the property, the use of the site in that area.
It's just, I mean, it's a very small piece of property and you're
Yeah.
doing a lot of work. And if we try to look at this holistically, it's a big ask on this size lot. So if there's any way to mitigate any sort of expansion that's not necessary, I just wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate that. And I think Ian can probably come up and address the usability of that site a little bit better. One of the big things that you have on a property like this, and this is true for a lot of the Heights properties, they were designed to be used the way they were used when they were designed. People use them differently now. Families are bigger now. You've got, more people using the same space for a longer period of time. So having a little bit of an extra elbow room is really the goal there. And I don't know, Ian, if you want to come up and expand on that at all, I'll get out of the way.
So Ian McDonald, the project architect. In regards to that porch, we're gonna actually have to support the house with the new foundation. So the porches will actually have, that particular porch has to be removed. And then we're gonna rebuild it in kind. We're gonna make it a little bit wider to make it a little more comfortable so you can actually sit in there. It is the one place that is really nice to sit in that house. You get away from the 114 traffic, the ferry line, and it's peaceful. There's a neighbor's garage, it's not too far away from it. And there's a nice fence and hedge right behind, so it's one very quiet little peaceful place off the kitchen, and that's why we're just asking for that 1-for-3 expansion, just to make it a little more comfortable to use.
The Heights raised the issue of parking during the project, and just wondering, is there a way to accommodate vehicles on that property?
It's 0.1 acre. The house covers more than half of it. We've been thinking, we're trying to plan, and the reason we went to block is to not have to have form trucks and unload all the forms and then set them up. And then bring in a pump truck. You got some pump trucks and then the cement. I'm just trying to for access.
Right, the thing is.
There's no place to park on that property. Once the foundation is back down, we can put a couple trucks on there or stage some lumber. But we really.
Because ultimately, the foundation is going to be over and done with in the first month of the project, right?
Yeah, this is not technical.
So after that, is there a way, because then the construction the rest of the construction is going to take a lot longer.
Right.
Is there a way to accommodate some vehicles on the property?
Again, we'll certainly put as many as we can, but I think the reality is there is not that much room, especially for lumber deliveries. We can't drop the lumber over by the ferry and then have the guys carry it, walk back and forth. There's
I understand that.
proximity requirements. There's a similar house lift on the Heights right now, and on a lot that's double the size and all the trucks are still on the road. They're not on Clinton Avenue, but this is other people are doing the same thing.
Okay, and then as far as timing of the project, is this something that would be like going on through a summer season?
We are certainly hoping to do all the major work in the winter months. And so if we can kind of late in the game, or by the time we get your approval and then go into full construction documents and get a bid, maybe we could start in November. if everything aligns. So the foundation work, the big stuff will be done by March. And then it comes down to interior trim. The patio would be one of the last things going in. And obviously, we'd have access to that whole yard until the very last days.
So how many cars do you think could fit there, before the patio construction starts happening?
2 maybe?
Two. All right.
It's just, there's,
So we're not gonna solve the parking problem on site.
No.
No.
Do you want to show them that photo again? of
Yeah,
the side yard, I think.
I went and actually, after we got the Heights letter, I went and I looked, because it is a legitimate concern, and we just wanted to see from that perspective, what kind of thing we were looking at.
And I guess like when you talk about lumber trucks and that kind of thing, like the thing would be to avoid having lumber trucks there at 3 PM, right? I mean, that's.
Oh, that's a no-brainer, yeah. Or
You don't want to have them at peak ferry times, right?
Yeah.
understood. The idea would be also to have a laborer, as a contractor, to maintain a laborer who also acts as a flagman. So when the lumber truck comes with the piggyback, they're gonna drop the truck for a couple minutes, they're gonna drop the piggyback, they're gonna grab the lumber. We're gonna have to stop traffic for a minute or two to do the offload, to load the piggyback back up on the truck, and then for them to drive off.
Would the lumber delivery truck be able to park along the seawall and deliver the load to the house?
I mean, that would be one possibility, but then that thing is going up and down, and then it's one way, so then it has to go all the way around. You've seen those things, they don't move very quickly, they're not.
I'm just saying, as far as the truck staying in
Yeah, no, I get it.
that one egress, the emergency lane, where that, it
It
wouldn't
might almost
park
be
there.
easier to do that from Grand Avenue, but again, that piggyback is taking that material all the way around. Oh, no, that thing's just been blocked off one way now, so they'd have to go down 114, back across.
So I think the seawall would be the best bet.
In
They
essence,
still have to do the loop all the way around anyway.
in essence, what would end up happening is the contractor would have to be in close coordination with the Heights and with the police department to make sure that everybody was on board and that, we weren't shutting down traffic for anything more than the absolute bare minimum amount of time. If accommodations would need to be made as far as timing is concerned, things along those lines, and that's what has to happen. I mean, this isn't the first project like this, and these things do get solved as we go through it, and it's almost on a day-by-day basis when you look at something.
There's a major project a couple of years ago diagonally across the creek that's north of that, so.
Exactly.
So then, but they had more space on the property too.
Yeah, they did. This drawing, this photo that's up here now, this was one that's taken a while ago. You can see the side yard there. You could get 2 cars front to back, or 2 trucks front to back on that side yard.
You might in a pinch get 2 side to side and then some materials in the back, I don't know.
So you could get some parking there, but it's not gonna be much. There is,
Would there be a way for the lumber truck to come and lumber truck backs up into there?
You got enough room to, they offload on the side.
Okay, I'll defer to you, Puncher, you got the more.
And they'll do the piggyback now, which has to then drop off the back.
Right, and then go around the side of
And
the
the
truck.
side, correct.
Just you don't have the room.
so you could, park off the side of the road. You can clearly get a vehicle between the hedges and the yellow line. So cars that are just parked on the side of the road would not need to be in a way that they were inhibiting traffic in any way.
Or if there's a lumber delivery, we make those cars move and then they get over there.
And so, there's gonna be a lot of vehicles there that are not for deliveries, they're gonna be people who are actually working in the job.
Yeah.
Where is it that you foresee those people parking?
I thought on Grand Avenue, next to the tennis courts.
Okay, where-
No plan to use the tennis courts at all. I don't know where that idea came from. The idea was to just use.
On the side of the road.
On the side of the
So
road.
we're typically, let's say on a summer evening, you'll see cars parked up there when the parking lot below is.
Maybe on a summer.
No, but I'm just saying that's that same sort of area, right?
Yes, exactly, yeah. You know, on either side, you know, either adjacent to the courts or on the opposite side, but between the white line and the tree line.
And have you explored like maybe trying to make some sort of a deal with, I don't know, the yacht club or with North Ferry for parking in
We
either of
certainly
those
can.
lots?
It really depends on the timing. You know, if this is happening over the late winter, early spring, absolutely, yeah. Right.
And would you accept, I mean, would you be happy to have a condition where we said, hey, anytime you have a delivery out there, you have to have a flag?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I'm proposing, to have it will help the whole project to have a full-time laborer / flagman.
I think another thing we've also done in the past with these type of projects with, when they're short on space, is just making sure that there's a sign posted with the number of the contractor, somebody who, that if all of a sudden there's a big congestion, because I mean, you have vendors coming who aren't talking and all of a sudden everybody shows up and it's a problem, people need to be able to contact that one point person to say, hey, this is a problem.
That's not a problem.
And I believe that's part of the Heights contractor agreement as well, so, you know, when we work that out with them, that'll be part of that.
Anybody else have any questions up here for these two? Is there anyone here, the Lori or Stella, do you want to weigh in for the Heights here?
Hi, Lori Fairbairn. I'm here representing the Shelter Island Heights Property Owners Corporation, and thank you for taking the opportunity to speak. The property and roads is per the letter that we sent earlier. I'm not going to reiterate that, but the property and roads and architectural committees have reviewed this application in great detail, and they have no objections to the proposed improvements. The one critical thing which you just been talking about is, however, the support of the Heights is conditional based on receiving traffic, parking, storage plan that is accepted to both the ZBA and the Heights. We currently do, as Matt mentioned, have 2 construction projects taking place in the Heights, which have become larger than anticipated with construction, parking, traffic, dumpsters, construction equipment, storage, staging of materials on property, deliveries, you name it. As a matter of fact, there was an issue this morning of parking and road blockage. This project is different, and it's different because it's on the main 114 thoroughfare to the ferry and to the ferry line. This property has no parking spaces currently on the property. The photograph that Matt showed of the parking in front is actually Heights property. It's in.
Let me ask you, Lori.
Yes.
That would be typically considered though a legal parking spot, is that correct in the Heights?
It's off of the paved area, so it's Heights property.
But it's legal parking.
It's legal as long as it's not obstructing the road.
Okay.
So it is imperative for the safety of the public that the roads, including the ferry line and the Heights property, be kept clear at all times, including emergency vehicles access to the ferry. The road cannot be closed. No parking or storage on Heights property is allowed without advance written approval from either the Heights manager or the general manager. And all damages, of course, to Heights property or neighboring properties must be repaired by the applicant at their expense. These elements, plus the construction schedule, means and methods of construction process, and all the essential, are all essential, I should say, due to the proposed scope of work on this particular property based on its location. We encourage the architect, the applicant, and the contractor to come up with a plan, a process, and a schedule that both the ZBA and the Heights can agree to prior to approval of this application by the ZBA. We're very disappointed that no one came to discuss this with us ahead of time. Although I did reach out to Matt and got some of the answers, but it really wasn't enough information. And so we heard the proposal tonight. And finally, we received a letter this evening at 5:18 p.m. from the adjacent neighbors that I've been asked to read into the record. And she writes, "Dear Lori, I'm just writing with 2 inquiries regarding construction, whether the foundation of the structural support walls, roof of the adjacent garage and driveway at 13 Clinton would possibly be affected, and similarly, whether the proposed construction excavation affect the yard or house foundation of 13 Clinton, because it's so close. We will try to attend the meeting, but we'll just like to have these be considered in the conversation. Thank you very much, and and Ms. Plummer is here this evening, and she'd like to speak further regarding her letter, or if you have any questions for her, she's here.
So can I ask you, Lori, for the Heights, what is an acceptable parking solution to the Heights? I mean, they're gonna have to park somewhere, right? Is on the sides of Grand Avenue?
There's not space on the side of all of Grand Avenue.
No, but there's quite a few. I mean, I see it like a lot of times in the summer when the ferry parking lot is full, you'll see a lot of cars parked up along that stretch. Also, a lot of times during the day when there's a lot of people playing tennis, you'll see a lot of people. And again, that's probably for about 2 months a year that you see those things. I would think that perhaps that would be a sensible area to have contractors and workers parking, especially when, if they're not going to be there during the evenings and they're not going to be there during the couple months when people are really playing a lot of tennis.
So there's a couple of things, Phil, and one is, it's not something that we wouldn't consider, it's just that we've not been asked. And the tennis season goes through the middle of November.
Although I'll say this, there's almost nobody there then.
We have a couple people, but usually on the weekends. And then the people that you see park up there are very overflow. And when the yacht club is open, we also have yacht club overflow. So, there's only so many people that it can fit, is what I.
What about along the seawall on the way up to that house?
And then, in the winter, there's very few people that park there. In the yacht club, I don't know when they close, but that's something.
And I'm just curious, the parking lot.
The issue is making sure that vehicles, on a snow day, that we can get the plows through. And people that park along the side, sometimes, we have to send notices out that you simply can't park there because we can't plow the streets.
And
the snow has to go somewhere.
and and is the Heights and declaring like a snow emergency? Like that's kind of like what the town does when.
The town does that. And then we send a notice out to all the Heights members and remind them that they can't park on those, in the areas so that we can be able to plow. Because, the plows we have small plows, we have big plows, we have different sizes, but we have to be able to plow the streets.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I don't know this, so that's why I'm asking. The parking area down by the yacht club, is that yacht club property or is that Heights property?
That's yacht club property.
Okay, so that would be something that they could try to work out some sort of a deal with the yacht club.
That's not Heights property. The road is a road going down to the yacht club and along that, all the way to get to the end is Heights property.
Okay.
Thanks.
Anybody else have any other questions for Lori?
I was just inquiring about the parking diagonally in along the seawall.
Right.
It's a shorter walk to that house than it is from parking by the tennis courts.
Yeah, it is.
It's Heights property.
Stella, if you want to weigh in, please come up and state your name. Thank you.
Hi, it's Stella Lagutis. I'm going to wear two hats. One's going to be for the Heights and one is going to be for the ferry.
You're gonna put on a captain's hat for the ferry?
So the first thing, to answer you directly, the preference would be that the applicant would find something that's not Heights property.
But what is that?
Yacht club, a next door neighbor, someone who's not using their property. I'm a little worried about having deliveries for a really heavy, fully loaded Riverhead building supply guy to go at the seawall. But parking nose in, that's kind of open to the public. That's really Bridge Street. So whether Bridge Street traffic, people are gonna get upset or not, most of them close. other than Marie Eiffel, the preference would be to have the applicant use something other than Heights property. We just had two nightmare situations where there's been a lot of damage to Heights property, and we tried to be good neighbors, and it just backfired. So parking across the street, Grand Avenue, would be fine, again, if it's not heavy, because there's a big dip from the asphalt, right?
And really, anybody is legally allowed to park there
During the day, absolutely. The concern might be in the shoulder month in the fall, if so, I guess you said, Ian, it wouldn't start till November earliest, right?
Depends on how quickly
Yeah.
we get this permit.
Yeah, so we just have to remember that they can work according to our contractor's agreement till 6 PM. So if you've got people like on a Friday who are, wanting to go to dinner or go to the movies, I mean, that's a lot of places where that along Grand Avenue is where the overflow goes from the ferry parking lot. So, we need to sit down and talk about it as the bottom line and come up with some ideas. But I just want to also remind you that it was 2 Clinton and I think 7 Clinton that had work done. And I think you were very prescriptive in the resolutions about what could get done on the street. You all know it's a very narrow street. So even like when a water truck, I mean, we've now started to say, please have the water trucks deliver on the property. There's only one big property that has a water truck come, because from a ferry perspective, people from a ferry perspective, our rush hour has gotten to be extended. So if you have rush hour, you have a delivery, you have an emergency vehicle, you cannot get through if you've got two, side by side. And at the end of the day, we've got to make sure that we keep it flowing. There's also the issue about, and Tommy, you know this, we're on a schedule with the boat. So we've got to leave. We have 7.5 minutes to load a boat. And if there's a delivery and a, ferry line, we've got to just make sure that business gets done, the house gets done. It's a beautiful rendering of what they're trying to do. No objection. We just have to figure it out.
And so, other than the yacht club, was there some other spot you're thinking of that that could be parking that would not be Heights property?
They can come and talk to us about using the ferry parking lot during the day in the off season.
Okay, but that's Heights property, right? So is there something else that you said, prefer not to be Heights property? I'm just curious if
Heights property, it's leased by the ferry, so it's a ferry decision.
Okay.
Right?
But not neighbors.
Neighbor, that's obviously up to the neighbors, but.
So let me ask you, I'll wait, I want to ask them if there's any possibility of parking at 11.
I'm sorry, where?
Parking at 11 Clinton, right? There's a garage right there. I don't know if and then there's like big space and then there's a house. I don't know if there's a possibility of making a deal with the neighbor to park there.
Yeah, I mean.
But that's, I'll ask them.
Exactly. So I'm happy to answer questions, but we just wanted to be as organized as possible, so we're a little gun shy.
I do think that, there is a possibility that if the Riverhead building comes and they unload their piggyback and they come around the side, at that moment, the road would have to be closed for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I don't know what that would be, just because safety-wise, you could not have people trying to slide by the piggyback when it's carrying, 2x12s or whatever it might be. So I mean, you have to accept that there would have to be some closing of the road for I would say, for as short a time as possible each time.
I think what I would like to have happen is to have the EMS, the emergency, Tilburg, somebody, just tell us that that's fine.
Okay.
So just offering this as a, option that you may or may not want to utilize either in lieu of imposing conditions or as a complement to any conditions that you would require, which is that the applicant would submit a construction protocol. And then that could be vetted by police and fire and emergency as well as the public as part of the process.
Like, not for us to have to do.
Yeah.
Right. It should be up to the Heights and the contractor, not us to be the.
I mean, I think based on this discussion, I would like to see some sort of a plan, which I think both the applicant wants and the Heights wants. So I think at this point.
And I think the start of it came right from the applicant with saying that there would be a dedicated flagman and
Yeah.
laborer
Yeah.
that would handle that. And even at that point of unloading a lumber truck, a Riverhead building supply truck with piggyback, it's a minute, if you're talking from November through March, April, May, there are plenty of times where that road is less traveled. And Riverhead Building Supply is on the island 20 times a day and know when that time is, know when the perfect drop is. And they're all seasoned drivers. They unload the truck, they expedite it. If you had a flagman there, it would happen very quickly. But again, that falls on the applicant putting this forward to the Heights for us to approve.
Tim, what was your wording? A construction
Protocol.
protocol? I like that.
That's what we asked for in our letter. That would be wonderful. We just get it vetted by the appropriate people. If it's not the ZBA, that's on us because we thought you would be the appropriate people, but we're happy to go anywhere.
We'll vet it, but we don't want to write it.
Yeah, no. Oh, sorry.
It's reasonable to
Okay.
request it. So I mean, at this point, can we go forward and say we request to have that in writing by?
Sure. I mean, I think we have to get this open.
Yeah.
May I add something first?
Yes, sir.
I'm not a contractor. We don't have a contractor on board. The idea is to get permission, we get the variances, then we know we can spend time to actually develop the construction documents. Once we have the construction documents, then we go to bid, and then we'll understand who the contractor is and we'll have a better understanding what the lumber list is.
We'll need a little something before.
Yeah,
It's gonna be near impossible to provide that.
Why is that? I think that regardless,
window.
I think that regardless of who your contractor is, right, regardless of what kind of windows you're using, there's going to be the same lumber trucks doing the same thing, the same number of carpenters or masons or whatever who are going to need parking. So I think that those things you guys could really work out without actually having a contractor on board. Just because I do think it's going to be important for us to work this out.
I do think it's
now.
very important to have a contractor on board.
It's just we can't give you the variance without this
They know
plan.
the day-to-day operations, they know the periods when they're gonna have certain trades, and they're the ones who can structure the schedule to meet the minimum impact. I'm gonna try to take a guess at it. I've witnessed been involved with many construction projects, but I can't guarantee, say that there aren't gonna be 5 different trades on the site one day, but if you have the right contractor, they're gonna limit those and limit to 3 or 4 trucks, that kind of schedule. So I'm just saying, I understand what you're asking. I do think it's a little bit of a cart before the horse.
Yeah, I think that this is, I don't know, something that connects the cart to the horse and is going to be something that I think is going to be important for us to have.
Okay, yeah, I see exactly what you're saying. I understand what Ian's saying as well, and I sympathize with the Heights and the Ferry's concerns. What we can do is we can put together a construction protocol. It's gonna be a little bit broad brush at this time, just because we don't have a contract, we don't have some of the finer details. But what we can do is put something together that shows what the overall plan is. We can vet it with EMS, we can vet it with the police department, we can vet it with the Heights, and have something to you guys, you know.
And Christina, could you dig up for us the conditions that we imposed on 2 and 7 Clinton Avenue when they were doing construction? Just to give us a little bit of a guideline. The Heights seem to be, pleased with those. And maybe you could share that with Matt and Ian and the Heights.
I did speak to the police department this morning, particularly Officer Clark, and he did call me back. We did go through a couple scenarios. He didn't think it was what we were proposing, anything different than landscaping trucks on 114 when they do the fall cleanup, blocking the lane for an hour or two. And there's, clearly, they're not construction trucks, but they're landscape trucks. They're doing the same thing.
And I get that, Ian.
And so they didn't seem to have any concern.
And, I think it's going to be easier than you think to work this out.
Thank you.
Is anybody here? Yes, please come up and
I
speak.
know everyone wants to go home. One more request. I think it was Lisa who mentioned that this is a lot going on a very small piece of property. So if you would consider adding a condition that says there won't be any more expansion.
Right, so Stella, I could say, those conditions are not worth the paper that they're printed on. We could put that condition on, and next month, somebody could come back for the same property and say, we've reconsidered, we want to do something. That's why this is the Board of Appeals. It's not, it's, we could put something like that in there, but it doesn't really do anything, except maybe warn off a potential buyer down the road.
Either way, they'd have to come back to us anyway if anything else happened on this property.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, if you wish to speak, please come up and state your name for the record.
Hi, very quick. Thank you for seeing me. I'm Lauren Caro. I actually am the neighbor immediately.
Can you speak a little louder, please?
Sure. Our garage and driveway are right next to the O'Connell's property.
Is that where it says 11 on the garage?
Yeah. So I just want to state at the outset, the O'Connells have been wonderful neighbors. Couldn't be better. So this is really just more directed at Matt and the architect. Since the garage and the house are the same age, even for everyone's safety, since you're digging down, just have you taken a look at whether that affects the structural integrity of the garage. And that's it. It's really honestly more for your safety, but I just felt like I should keep the lines of communication open and going forward as well, because I just want to be a good neighbor. Thank you.
I can briefly speak to that. When we designed the foundation, you'll see that we are maintaining a crawl space next to the garage. We are not taking that down, just do minimal to put a new foundation in there, because we didn't want to undermine the neighborhood. So that has been given full consideration.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to weigh in? Anyone in Zoom land wish to weigh in? I think we need to keep this open, right? Yes. 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 So I guess we'll adjourn this until July 23rd. And hopefully maybe you guys could have some sort of a little powwow and plan and that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we'll work on the parking. Actually, maybe Mr. Porcaro, your property might be able to be part of that discussion. So yeah, we'll get that to you. And hopefully that'll just be a real quick, close it up and done next month. Okay. So, thank you.
We'll be hopeful too, man.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that's the end of our meeting. We're going to go into executive session to discuss pending litigation here. So if everybody kind of clear the room and let us do our thing, that'd be great.
Yeah. Thank you.